Hey riders, let's talk now about tight turns. Tight turns are typically done at slow speed where we need to turn very sharply around an object or maybe a switchback climb or descent. When we're doing that, we're going to be standing over the bike. We're going to think about focusing ahead and looking where we want to go. We're going to steer the handlebars a lot in order to direct the bike in the direction that we want to go. And our shoulders should match the bars in order to twist our body, which helps the bike to change direction more quickly. I'm going to show you what that looks like in the circle behind me. All right, coaches, let's talk a little bit about why we would use tight turns from time to time. I first want to highlight and revisit tight turns versus cornering. Tight turns are typically turns in which you are going much slower, making a tighter, smaller radius turn, and in some cases we may be going around an object, or we may be on a switchback climb or descent where the turns are very tight and there's elements of exposure involved. So tight turns are often something that we need to practice first on flat ground and progressing those skills more, helping the riders to understand all of the teaching points that are involved. And then as we take it to the trail, they'll have an opportunity to perform better. Now let's talk about a few progressions that we may introduce as we're doing our tight turns. In the circular area of cones, let's make sure that riders are going both left and right around the circle so they're able to practice the skill going in both directions. Additionally, you may see riders that are gravitating to being seated while they do this exercise and others that are standing. Let's make sure that they are able to do both, as it may be required to be standing out on the trail, and there might be situations where it may be easier for them when seated out on the trail. Another progression that we can sometimes introduce is ratcheting with our pedals. Ratcheting is pedaling in partial pedal strokes. It helps us to maintain our balance while we're going slow and is really advantageous here while doing tight turns. We'll go over ratcheting in the intermediate skills, but know that if you see riders doing that while you are introducing tight turns here amongst the essential skills, there's no reason for us to discourage that, and it may prompt us to start teaching ratcheting right before we do tight turns. I'll leave that up to you. Now let's talk about a few errors that we may see while we're practicing our tight turns. First is that the rider's not looking ahead in the direction that they want to go. They may be staring at the cones, which is prompting them to turn late and not stay within the cones. So ask the riders to be looking very deliberately ahead, turning their head and looking ahead to where they want to be going next. Another error that we often see is the riders aren't steering the handlebars appropriately for how much they need to turn. This is sometimes awkward for riders to be turning the handlebars dramatically while going slow, and it may take them a little time to work it out. Additionally, we may see riders that are too far back. If they're too far back, they're hanging on the handlebars, which makes it difficult to steer the bicycle and maintain your balance at the same time. So let's help riders to promote that they should be in a good ready position, maybe a tall ready position as they're on this flat area here. And that's going to help them to stay more balanced in the middle of the bike as they're practicing. All right, coaches, just a few more progressions that start to lead into some gameplay. First is that when we are practicing through the cones, there's often a lot of people waiting their turn. And after they have started to begin to get the hang of it and understand the flow, why not suggest that more than one person can be in the circle at the same time? That creates an element of proximity and having to navigate or deal with other riders in close proximity, and it's a nice progression for this exercise. As you see riders having fun adding additional riders to the circle, consider morphing this into a game of foot down. The game foot down is a very popular game where riders are all going in a circular pattern, and after the coach says go, the rider who puts their foot down last becomes the winner. And as riders are eliminated, the circular area gets smaller, confining the space that the riders can ride in. This is why tight turns are a great skill to be practicing as you're thinking about introducing foot down to your program. All right, got someone's out. And a second person, third person's out. Oh, 4, 5. You gotta stay away from other riders. If they put a foot down, you might be forced to. Another activity that we can introduce here while doing tight turns is the rock dodge. Notice I've added 2 rocks to the area within my circle, and as I am now going around the circle, I'm dodging the objects. So we'll be talking about the rock dodge again in the intermediate skills, but just note that this is something that's wonderful to combine with the tight turning drills.